Hello, hello. Today I'm going to work a short tutorial with you guys on how to work the slip stitch joining method. So I've joined these two blocks doing it with a different color yarn so you can really see the full effect of working the slip stitch when we're joining our squares. This is what the back of our work looks like. This one is super easy, so all we need to know is slip stitches. Let's do it together. Okay, so to show you how to do this seaming method, I'm going to use two blocks for the blanket that I will probably be putting together for the rest of my life. And I'm going to use a different color yarn so that you can really see the effect working the slip stitch does to joining your work. So here's my two pieces of work. I have them with the right sides facing up, and I'm going to put the wrong sides together. So I've got my wrong sides together, and I'm looking at lining up the stitches that I'm going to be seaming together. You're going to grab the yarn you're working with, you're going to work a slip knot, and then what you're going to do, you're going to take your hook, and then on the piece closest to you, you're going to go through your first stitch under both loops, like this. You're going to find the first stitch of your piece farthest from you under both loops, just like this. Then we're going to grab the slip knot that we worked, and we are going to pull it through all of those loops. And then you're going to do a chain one, and this is just to attach our new color. You don't have to use a new color. This is a really beautiful joining method, so it leaves like a flat design on the work. So I find using a different color kind of adds a little bit of a cool little texture to your project. So once you've done that, for this method of the slip stitch, what we're going to do is we're going to open our work back up and we're going to lay it flat. So the right side's up, and this is where we're going to start working our joining method. So it's a little bit complicated. Once you get the groove of how to do it, it's a little bit easier, but this specific version kind of needs you to be a little bit particular with your yarn. So I always take my working yarn and just put it right up the center like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start at the bottom here. So I know that I'm always going to be working from my right side piece. Let's just take a look. This is the next stitch that we're going to work through. So when I'm working this slip stitch version, I'm only going to be working on that back loop. So I'll go under the back loop of my work, making sure that my yarn is laying flat. We don't want to get stuck under my working yarn. And then the second one you're going to go through is on the left side. You find your next stitch, and you're going to go through the back loop of that one also. And then you will complete the slip stitch from there. So let's do it together. Like I said, the first couple ones are a little bit tricky. You do need to kind of figure out how to work it, keeping attention and keeping the yarn flat, because we don't want that on top of it while we're working underneath. So let's have a look here. That's our very first stitch we're going to work into. So I'm going to work under that back bar. So underneath the back bar, just like that, keeping that yarn down, working on my other side. That's my stitch I'm working into, and I'm going to go through the back bar of that. So now I have those two bars on my hook. Grab your working yarn, yarn over your hook, and then slip stitch. So you're going to pull through all of the loops on your hook, and then you've completed it. So let's do one more together. Actually, we'll do a couple more together. So we've got our next stitch we're working into. We're going to work through the back bar of that stitch, and then we're going to find the stitch on our other side. We're going to work through the back bar of that one, and then you're going to grab that working yarn and you'll yarn over and pull through everything on your hook. Let's do it again. So we're going to do the back loop of the stitch on the right hand side, then we're going to do the back loop of the stitch on the left hand side, then we'll yarn over and pull through, work your slip stitch. And like I said, once you get kind of the hang of it, it becomes a little bit easier to work this slip stitch version just by working it like this. When you lay your work flat after, so we have a little bit of a mishap there trying to show you, but it leaves a really beautiful texture in between, just like that. If you end up working it like this, where you're working the slip stitch and you try to work under the bars, it doesn't leave that same effect. So that's why it's important to have your work almost laying flat or in front of you so that you can do it like this. So have your yarn right down the center, and then let's do it here. So try to keep a relatively even tension on your right hand side, find the back loop, right through it like that, back loop of your left hand side, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all loops on our hook. So work that all the way to the end, and then we will look at what working the slip stitch this way does to our work. Okay, so I've worked it near to the end. So this is what that looks like there when you're looking at the front of your work. So if you have a project where it's all the same color squares, it'd be a nice touch of color you could add to use a different color yarn. The back of our work is almost not noticeable. So it's just the one row line that you can see on the back of your work. But that's what happens when you work a slip stitch working up on the front of your work like that. So it leaves that beautiful, you can see the stitches you worked. It's relatively easy to do. I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite way to join squares, only because it's super irritating trying to keep that tension, and my patience is very little. I save it for my children, not for crocheting. So this is the slip stitch join or seaming method, and I hope this tutorial helped you guys figure it out.